Whoa, okay, here we go again. As you've probably noticed, I'm in a different spot again, using a different camera. In fact, this is a much worse camera. I will point that out. This is a Logitech C922, I think it is, or 322 or something. I don't remember. Anyway, it's a 720 Logitech camera. It's not great. It's grainy. So we're going to kind of switch the visuals up here in a minute to try to take care of that a little bit better. But I didn't want to completely freak you out with the brand new screen when you came on. We are going to talk a little bit before we get started here that things have gotten a little messed up here lately. One of the things about doing this show in particular is that, like I said before, this is I'm trying to make sure that this is a hobby, not trying to make this a job, right? So things happen in the world, and when something happens, a bunch of stuff has been going on with my daughter at school, and her Chinese group is doing this Chinese New Year thing, and so there's been, whatever stuff going on, and so it's taking up a lot of extra time, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on. And then this week, a bunch of people, they left the country. They're all in Dominican Republic, so we're picking up some extra duties around here to cover for the people on that trip. So, there's some extra stuff going on. So one of the things was, I want to apologize. There was no show on Thursday and Friday. I thought maybe I might do one on Friday, kind of make up for it, but didn't happen. So then today, Tuesday, I was going to do a review of this thing from Wish. It was supposed to show up about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so I was working on my Elgato game capture. I had everything set up so I could pull footage from this thing and then have the picture of me on there, and we could talk about what was going on. And it's really weird working with the Elgato and trying to get the volume levels right and the sound capture so that I can talk and we get some sound from the device and whatever. And then the package didn't come until about 4 hours after it was supposed to, and then it wasn't even the right package. That whole thing fell apart. So I still have all the wires and everything set up for doing that video capture. I didn't want to tear it all apart, which is one of the reasons why we have this funky setup here tonight with a different camera and stuff, because I didn't want to, take everything down. Also, it is 11:34 p.m. Everyone else in the house is asleep, so I'm actually in a different spot in the back of the house, so I'm not going to wake them up and disturb everybody doing videos tonight. So, you've clicked on the thumbnail. You know what's going on here. We're going to be reviewing some comics. Now, here's actually what we're going to do. I've got the comics here, even though these technically don't come out until tomorrow. Went ahead and got them early, so I do have the 4 comics to review here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit right here. I'm going to read them. We're going to fast forward while I'm reading it, condense the time down, but so you can get an idea of how long it actually takes to read through some of these. And then we're going to talk about them right here on the spot. Before we do that, though, I was at Killen's today, and he was nice enough to share with me these Growing Pains trading cards. Apparently, these have not been selling like hotcakes, so I went ahead and grabbed some of these packs to play with. Wait a minute. And this one has no gum. Where's the gum? There's supposed to be gum, right? Let me make sure they're supposed to be. Yeah, this one has gum. Okay. Huh. So this one didn't come. This one didn't get the gum. Well, that stinks. All right. So 9 picture cards, 1 sticker, and 1 stick of bubble gum. Didn't get the gum, which is probably for the best because the gum in these things gets pretty disgusting at this point in time. And if you want to see why, I actually did a video. Oh my gosh, like 8 or 9 years ago, where I opened a pack of Garbage Pail Kids and ate the gum, and it was gross. So, for those of you who don't remember Growing Pains, it was a sitcom in the 80s. Excuse me. Kirk Cameron and Alan Thicke were the two big stars on that one. And I was a fan, always a big fan. One of the things I was a big fan of, oddly enough, was Maggie Seaver, the mom. She was good for a growing boy. And in fact, here's one of the reasons why. Check this out. Woo! There she is in the bathtub. And of course, this camera doesn't want to focus. Ready to throw in the towel, honey? This is weird. So, growing pains. These cards. They have scenes from the show. But the captions underneath don't match. So it's like an early form of memes or something. So you can see, okay, so the shape of it is like a house. There's like a TV antenna there at the top. And there's a picture. Of course, this doesn't want to focus because this is a terrible camera. But we've got Mike and Carol Seaver. Yeah, Carol. There we go. Carol accidentally breaks her mother's favorite lamp, so Mike and Ben help her glue it back together. But poor Ben gets glued to the table. Just wait until Jason and Maggie get home. Okay, so that's the actual clip from the show. That's what it's supposed to be. But the caption underneath the photo is, "Come on, help me! I put super glue on my fingertips." So they wrote jokes on the cards just as good as the ones in the show. Sometimes a guy just has to make sacrifices. I'll only go on 2 dates this Saturday. Okay, hot date. A date with gorgeous Madonna lookalike Lisa is every guy's dream at Hoover High, and she shows up at the Seavers' door. But Mike quickly discovers luscious Lisa is a bit too hot to handle. Ooh, that's something. Wish I had a better camera running right now. So this old one, what does this say? 1988 looks like. All rights reserved. Tops. 1988. All right, so we got a Maggie Seaver sticker. Some of these. Yes, son, that's the best trout imitation I have ever seen. Okay, so there's some of the highlights from that first pack, even though it did not have any gum. Let's see, this next pack. Ooh, the gum is intact in this one. So this other one I opened, the stick is still complete. That is rare. That's actually, that's more collectible if it's done that way. So we've got, what do we have here? Whew, can we just have dessert without dinner tonight? That's great. Let's see, here's sticker. Oh, it's and the second sticker is also Maggie Seaver. So I've got two. Actually, that's awesome because now I can do the 3D thing where you hold the two of them up and then you cross your eyes, and it actually kind of works, except it's doing it backwards. So instead of being 3D coming out, it's 3D popping in. And that's because the print on these is so bad. It's just a little off. That crossing your eyes to do the stereo effect kind of works because the two images are a little bit different because the offset printing is off. So that's interesting. Boy, these jokes. Yes, dear, they're the fairest of them. You're the fairest of them all. Now can I use the mirror? Wow, that's great. That is humor. That is, you cannot beat this humor. All right, so anyway, that was pack number 2. Just giving you the highlights. I don't want to bore you with everything. I mean, we got to get to these comics, but now see, this is more what I expect. The gum is, if I can show it here, it's all broken into pieces on the inside. That's what you expect to see with this old gum. And don't try chewing it, because if you try to chew it, it just kind of dissolves into powder. It won't gum up anymore. It just kind of comes apart and just becomes gross in your mouth. Oh, here's a trivia question for you on the back of this card. Do you know the last name of Mike's friend Boner? Remember his friend Boner? Was it Santone, Martinelli, Blansky, or Stabone? Well, it was in fact Stabone. It was Boner Stabone. I remember that. That was Fantastic. Sometimes a guy just has to... Wait, this is the same... Guy has to make 2 dates. Yeah. We got Maggie in the bathtub. Imitation of the trout. Aloha from the sea. Okay, there are a few things that are different here. What's the sticker in this one? Oh, the sticker is the Sensational Seavers. So there we go. And actually, that's kind of funny because it's almost the same hairstyles as everybody on the Goldbergs. So there's something interesting. I hope everyone wanted those burgers well done. Oh, I wish that face would focus because that's money. Okay. So anyway, not gonna go through all those. Just fun thing had to share. All right, so we're gonna get into reading these comics, and the first thing I'm gonna be reading is Batman. So let's switch over to Batman. Yeah, see, made some new little things here. Now, I never just sit down and read to do the review. I always have to have a nice beverage. In this case, it's Ham's Special Light because I only drink the best. It's only the best. And I've got a couple of these here. So, I do like the taste of a good light beer. I also have a Zagnut bar because I only like candy bars that were developed in the 1950s. Anything after that, and they lose all the charm. Okay, so here we go. I am going to begin now on Batman 87. And of course, this frame that I put together is from the regular cover, but I buy the variant. And the variant was $4.99. And I don't know if it's because it's the cardstock cover. They're doing, I guess all the variants now are going to be cardstock. So they're going to cost more? Which kind of... No, that's not even true. Because this Superman is... oh, but it's not cardstock. Okay. I was going to say, because it's only $3.99. But anyway. Alright, here we go. Batman 87. Part 2 of the new story by James Tynion IV. Here we go. Okay. So, Batman 87. Okay. Definitely, again, I like this so much more than Tom King's run. What's going on? What we found out last time was these 5 assassins. They were awakened, not awakened, but a plan that had been stored years ago, whatever, was put into motion. The plan was awakened. They came to Gotham to start, whatever was going to happen. Bruce Wayne had made a bunch of changes, or was in the process of making changes to Gotham City, and whoever these villains are, they had some plan for changing Gotham City. So now it's basically Bruce Wayne and his plan for the city versus whoever's pulling the strings. And this next chapter gives us a little more insight into the depth of the plan of the 5 assassins. We still don't know who's in charge, and we're still not getting all the answers. But it really does a good job of showing how well thought out everything was. There's still some questions. There are a couple things in here that they seem like very happy accidents that are somehow planned. And in order for the plan to work, you would have to have... I don't know what I want to say without giving it away. But it's too convenient. It's too convenient. So there's got to be a mole somewhere in order for some of the stuff they pull off to pull off. But we don't really seem to get a clue of who or why. But we find out that the group of assassins are actually using a plan that was put in place by somebody else, another villain, and that villain is not entirely happy to find out that his plan is being used, and so we get 2 mainstay Bat villains having this conversation about someone named the Collector. I think is that it? The Collector. And then we have these assassins who apparently they knew being captured by Batman last issue was part of their plan. The designer, not the Collector, the designer. So whoever the designer is, he could be the one behind the 5 assassins. And of course that would kind of make sense, but again, who knows if they throw red herrings in here. So again, I do like this better. I do like this a lot better than the Tom King run on Batman. Definitely I think the story is a buy so far. It's a lot of fun. Oh, and Riddler. Whew. Kelly Jones did not do the artwork, but it sure looked like he could have because of how the Riddler looks in this particular issue. So this is definitely a read. This is definitely a buy. I would put right now. I was a little skeptical with Tinian the Fourth. He's not my favorite writer, but I do like this story a lot, and I would definitely put this in the buy pile. I don't know if I had to give a score out of 100. I'd say it's a solid 80, maybe even an 85. I am very intrigued to see where it goes. Again, it's not perfect, and there's some things that I'm kind of afraid they're going to just skip right over, and it's just okay. They were able to pull this off, and it seems too convenient. But overall, yeah, this is good. I enjoyed this quite a bit. Okay, so on to our next book, which is Detective Comics. Woo! And so Detective 1019. And again, the cover that you see on your screen, that artwork is from the main cover, and I've got the variant here, which is a very dark painting that's kind of hard to see on that camera. But I forgot to check to see how long it took to read the last book, so I'll put a time count of how long it took to read the last one there at the end, but I'll kind of keep an eye here. So here we go, Detective Comics 1019. Okay, so that took about 5 minutes to read. Didn't really care for it, to be quite honest. It's unusual because the story is based around the winter solstice. It is now January 21st, right? Now it's the 22nd because it's Wednesday. But December 21st was the solstice in December. So we're a month past. This book is bi-weekly. So it makes it a little odd that in the month since the solstice, we get the story of the solstice instead of it happening, ending on that week or starting on that week. So that's odd. The story itself, what we saw last time was really a Bruce and Lucius story. Lucius Fox, who is taking the place of Alfred, who is currently dead in continuity. Bruce and Lucius were spending time together. Lucius is forcing Bruce to actually be Bruce Wayne. I enjoyed the stuff between them, and then at the end, this Norse guy comes and attacks Bruce, and that's the end of the issue. They do a little bit of the Bruce and Lucius character stuff, but it's only for about 2 pages, and then it just kind of drifts away. They still interact, but it's not perfect. And then it wraps up. I don't want to spoil anything, but it wraps up very conveniently. In the end, nothing really happens. You kind of get a glimpse of something, but it doesn't things aren't what they seem, and what you get seems less interesting than what it seemed like it was going to be. So, and there was not. It's one of those where things are explained because Bruce does a bunch of research and then he goes and fights, and while he's fighting, he's running through the stuff that he researched in his mind, just to give some sort of narration for what's going on. But it's giving away the plot points and things that should happen in the story. Here, like, honestly, I'll put it this way: this feels like there should be another issue, and maybe for something else going on, they said no. Instead of 3, it's got to be 2. So he had to kind of crunch things down and condense them to make them work in one issue. That's a distinct possibility, but I'm not necessarily a fan of the total product. So if you've not bought 1018 and you're not necessarily planning on 1019, I would say this story is a skip. Read it maybe if it shows up like on Comixology Unlimited or something in the future. It might be kind of an interesting thing to just kind of skim through and get an idea. But honestly, overall, not too impressed, which is kind of a bummer, because Tomasi, or however you pronounce his name, he's usually pretty solid. He usually can do a good story, a 1-issue, 2-issue decent thing, but this is not it. So that's a shame. All right. So now we've got our next book, which is Superman 19. The truth has been revealed and things will never be the same. So that's that cover, the main cover, talking about, of course, the current story plot that Clark Kent has revealed that he is in fact Superman. So now we get the next part here, Superman 19. Now it's been revealed, we get to see some of the fallout from this. So come on, Bendis. Let's see if you can do anything interesting. All right, well, again, one of the problems with Bendis is dialogue, and the fact that the dialogue just goes on and on and on and on, and it takes the place of actual plot. He writes scenes, but the scenes don't actually accomplish anything. He might try to write it off as some sort of character study or something, but it's really not. Instead of throwing in some snappy dialogue and getting things moving, he spends pages of conversation and people going back and forth, whole panels of just someone like reacting to what's being said around him. Superman revealed who he was, that he was Clark Kent, whatever. So the Daily Planet has to figure out, what to do with this. Perry and of course, all the lawyers that come with a media conglomerate type place have a lot to say about this, whatever. So he's got to deal with Lois and Clark here. One of the things, of course, is that they decide that they're now going to push the fact that Superman writes for the Daily Planet. So the Clark Kent thing, it's the byline is no longer going to be from Clark Kent. It's going to be Superman exclusively speaks to the world through the Daily Planet, which I don't know how that really falls into the Superman mythos. And then it goes into there's going to be some Superman spinoff. Superman Heroes #1 is going to be coming, that the story continues into. Great. And then there's something with the United Federation of Planets that they just set up. Well, I guess it's not the United Federation of Planets, because that's Star Trek, but whatever, the United Nations of Planets, the United Planetary Federation. I don't even know. I forget what that thing was called, but it's the reason why Bendis had to make his son into a teenager and then throw him in the future with Legion of Superheroes. I'm not a huge fan of all of this going on. Again, nothing really happens in this book. I hate to say it because I've been reading Superman stuff for so long, but it might be time just to not buy Superman for a while, because this is not. I would not recommend picking this up if you're not picking up Superman, because the storyline it may go somewhere interesting, but for now it's not. It's really not. And again, nothing happens in this book. Completely skippable. All right, and then our final comic here. I will flip over to Ghostbusters #1. Now, Ghostbusters Year 1. I do not normally read Ghostbusters all the time. I've read it, here and there over the years. Especially some of the crossover stuff that they've done and whatnot. But I picked this up, Ghostbusters Year 1, because I remember reading something about how this is supposed to go into the early days of what it was like for the Ghostbusters. So you can see the artwork here. It's actually I did get cover A. I didn't really care. You can see that there's there's Winston, and you follow the beam over, and the guy over there, that's the ghost that was the taxi cab driver in Ghostbusters. Down at the bottom, we have him covered in the marshmallow fluff from the Stay Puft guy, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I'm not sure what the other piece of artwork is. Supposed to be down at the bottom. But nonetheless, we have that. And it's weird because Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters logo, I think everyone's pretty much familiar with the ghost, coming out. Oh, it's also on the back there, of course. The ghost coming through. And then for Ghostbusters 2, they have the ghost doing 2 up there. So they drew this Ghostbusters logo doing the 1. So that you know that this is the first movie. Like, this ties into the first movie, not the second one, the first movie. Instead of just doing that. So here on the back, we've got a quick little write-up. In anticipation of the new Ghostbusters feature film coming to theaters summer 2020, we look back at the boys in Gray's first year on the job, showcasing never-before-seen adventures by the fan favorite and critically acclaimed creative writer Eric Burnham, artist Dan Schoening, and colorist Luis Antonio Delgado. So, yeah, this is why I wanted to get it, because it's going back to the early days, year 1, so to speak, of Ghostbusters. And I found that idea intriguing, interesting. And so, here we go. Oh, dang it. 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick pause here because the battery is about to die. So I need to go find the plug in the laptop before it actually dies. And I'll do it with the Bita Zagnet. Crisis averted. All right. Empty. Here we go. This is a good one. What the heck? One more bite of Zagnet before we get back into it. All right. You know what? That's really good. That's really good. Wow. I'm really impressed. This is actually the type of thing I might read this again. So this is set after the events of the first movie. Obviously, there's a reporter who's there to write a book about everything that happened. Some of the smaller characters that you recognize from the film will appear at the beginning to give little quotes, little pieces that are supposed to be for the background of the book, doing these interviews. And then she sits down with Winston to talk to him about what he did before he became a Ghostbuster, what it was like being hired, how he got trained. And so some of the stuff that you're seeing there with him is slices that happen in the movie in between other scenes. So you see him actually training with the proton pack. The first time he actually captures a ghost. Some of the stuff that would have just in the movie been part of one of those montages, whatever, stuff that they just skipped over. You know, Winston gets hired. He showed how to flush a trap. And then the next thing you see him out in the field. So this answers some of those questions, fills out some of that other stuff. So it's one of those things where as I was reading it, I started hearing the voices more. All of the characters, even though the style is very much like the cartoon, the real Ghostbusters, which of course you can see by looking at the artwork here on the screen, the actual story, I was hearing the voices from the movie. I was picturing the stuff as I was thinking back to some of the stuff that happens in the movie and thinking about what's happening in this comic. They just flow together really well. I know that the writer, Burnham, working on this book, is someone who's done a lot of work with Ghostbusters over the years. And some of the other Ghostbuster stuff I've read, you think, okay, these are the Ghostbusters, whatever. But you just kind of, I don't know. They were expanded universe. To use another term. They were stories that very well could get skipped over in some sort of future telling of the Ghostbusters. So there could be something in the new Ghostbusters movie that would undo something that happened in those other comic series, you know? Here, this feels like it's deeply connected. You know, this feels like the tissue that holds together parts of that original story. When I got done reading it, I kind of got like goosebumps almost in a way, because I did have a really good feeling about the story. I would say out of the 4 that I've read, this one actually is my favorite. And I'm not the biggest Ghostbusters fan in the world. I definitely enjoy the property. I never saw the remake all the way through. I couldn't do it. But I have always enjoyed Ghostbusters. But I'm not like a big collector of everything Ghostbusters. I don't have my own proton pack or anything like that. But getting done with this comic, if you in any way, if I've seen the original movie multiple times, and if you are one of those people who've seen the original movie multiple times, and you can recall a lot of the events from the movie and a lot of the characters and a lot of the dialogue and things like that, then this is definitely, I think, something that you'll want to get. At least this first issue with Winston is great. I don't know how the future ones are going to go, although I did notice they show artwork from the next one focusing on Ray Stantz, and down in the bottom there's a picture of him in this military type garb reading a book. And it's funny because I was just talking about this with somebody the other day. There's the scene in the first movie where he wakes up in the middle of the night and there's this ghost of the woman floating above him, and his pants start to become undone on their own, and then it focuses on his face as his eyes roll in the back of his head, and he's like, whoa, all right. But if you pay attention to that scene, you realize he's wearing this jacket. He's wearing this military outfit. And it's apparently a scene from a sequence that got cut from the film. They filmed that particular scene, and then they went ahead and used it in the movie. It plays almost like it's a dream. Like he's dreaming this sequence happening. But it was something that was meant to be in the film as part of them. I think they were busting ghosts out of an old Civil War fort or something like that. Maybe Revolutionary War, whatever. So it's interesting. I see that in there. Now, I'm definitely intrigued for the next one because I did enjoy this so much. And then seeing that, I wonder if they're going to explain that scene. So that scene that got cut from the movie, is that maybe now added back into the canon by use of this series. So now I'm wondering if any of the stuff I've just read in here is stuff that was, again, supposed to be canon and then got cut for time or in a rewrite or whatever. But this feels like Ghostbusters. That feeling of abandonment you had when the last movie came out, that's now gone, and we feel like we're right back into the thick of things where things work. So again, even though it looks like the cartoon versions of the characters, really, it feels like the movie. This was awesome. This is a definite must-buy for any Ghostbusters fan. And even if maybe you haven't seen the original movie, but the new one's coming, so you're like, well, I should sit down and watch the original. It's a classic movie from the 80s. Everybody says it's great. It is great. Watch it, enjoy it, and then read this to go with it, because this is a nice little chaser. So this is definitely my favorite of the 4 I've read. So I know I've got Red Hood and the Outlaws also to read this week, and again, I don't think I'm getting any Marvel at all this week. There are 3 comic book stores in town, and I used to work at, technically I used to work at 2 of the 3. So I still go to all 3 comic shops every week, so I get some books at one store, and some books at another store, and some books at the other store. That's just the way I do things. So, but now it is 12:30. I've been sitting here for an hour, even though we fast-forwarded through a lot of this stuff. For your sakes, you don't have to sit here and look at me while I'm reading, or even chasing down the power cable for the laptop. Still, though, I need to finish this up, and I need to head to bed. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Oh, and I'm not going to ask you to like, not going to ask you to subscribe, not going to ask you to share, not going to ask you to hit that bell. I'm not even going to ask you to join my Patreon, which I don't even have. All I want you to do is remember this one thing. You're watching the best looking guy on the internet.